It's time for We in Lewes, a podcast dedicated to celebrating the remarkable, creative, and energetic people of Lewes, Delaware. They are the We in Lewes. I'm your host, Kevin McGinnis. We're joined today by guests from this year's episodes, and we can't thank them enough for agreeing to come back. This really is their show. Our episodes are their stories, in their words, and to the degree we've had any success, it's because of who they are. With us today here in the recording studio at the bar and Kindle Restaurant, which is smack dab in the middle of the burgeoning heart of downtown Lewes, are, and please hold your applause till the end, Lee Ann Wilkinson, Abraxas Hudson, Dr. Chris Degnon, Hi Do, Richard Martin, Katie Ackerman, Ed Shockley, Dr. Krista Griffin, Megan and Brian Kellman, and Josh Barr. Again, thanks to each of you for your candor, humor, patience, and inexplicably a level of judgment that allowed you to come back today in exchange for some free foods and drink. Did everybody get enough to eat and drink? As you may understand by now, we're recording this episode in front of a live audience, which always makes the show more fun. As always, there'll be some editing still, mostly for me. Also with us today are the folks who make this podcast possible. Steve Esfandieri, our sound and quality engineer, co-editor, and one of the most unflappable people I've ever been lucky enough to work with. Without Steve, we literally wouldn't be on the air. Thanks, my friend, for your enthusiasm, hard work, for the time you spend on editing, and for always being there. Thank you again from the bottom of my heart. If you were any closer, I'd give you a hug. Matt DiSabatino, our landlord and first friend. Everyone knows Matt, and everyone he meets automatically considers him a friend. We certainly did. He was instrumental in helping create this podcast, suggesting guests, convincing them to appear, and always making us feel like we were doing something positive. And a big thank you to the entire Kindle team for the incredible food and drink you provided us today. Not surprising, it was perfect. Thanks, my friend. Ray Damager. Ray designed our logo, our brand, and the info card. Ray does.
Another sip, Kevin.
English is not my first language. Ray Damager.
Only I can say that.
Ray designed our logo, our brand, the info cards we're using to spread the word, and the banners that were unveiled during Saturday's Christmas parade. Every job Ray does includes his own singular touch. If you look closely at our logo, you'll see the microphone is tweaked slightly so it looks like one of the World War II watchtowers in Cape Henlopen State Park. So cool. Thanks, Ray. Josh Barr is here today on double duty, both as a guest and as our official clothier. He's helped with the hats and the creation of the t-shirts we passed out at the Christmas parade. Josh, the best skunk wrangler in town, thanks for being such an enthusiastic supporter of the show. And the Williams brothers. They couldn't make it today because, well, they're still in high school. But they wrote and recorded the music that starts and finishes every episode. They're incredible musicians and even more impressive young men. Today we're going to have some fun, talk a bit about the show, and end with the holidays. I hope all of you at the bar are feeling more relaxed now that you've been fed, had something to drink, and realize you aren't the sole focus of today's recording. Each of your episodes made our podcast so much more than just a series of individual stories. We learned how to start a business, to take risks, the power of humility, listening to your gut, to leap into the unknown, and to always be part of your community. At times, I got so caught up with what you were saying, I forgot to ask the next obvious question. So, now's my chance. Brax, it couldn't have been easy to turn your back on college and head off to the other side of the country to become an artist. Now that you're older and have had so much amazing experiences and success, have you ever looked back at that decision and wondered what would have happened if you had done things more conventionally?
Absolutely. Think about it all the time. We live in a world of credentials. So there's the natural inclination to seek more. But at the same time, I'm a nonstop reader and researcher. So I just kind of do my own thing without being led by someone else. So yeah, my life would probably be a lot different. Who knows, whether it's the contacts I made or a new subject I stumbled upon that took me in a new direction. But I enjoy where I am, so just going to keep my journey going, right?
Right. Lee Ann, first, congratulations on being named the #1 realtor group in the entire Berkshire Hathaway PenFed Realty National Network. It's an extraordinary, yes.
Thank you.
It's an extraordinary achievement, especially when you factor in that you're competing with real estate companies all over the United States. I should note, this never happened until you recorded an episode on We and Lewes, the podcast. So, on behalf of Steve and myself, you're welcome. Given how successful you've been at so many different things, why haven't you opened that swimsuit store?
Maybe when I retire. Yeah, I really want to do that someday. I do. It'll be fun and different. I'll still be selling stuff, so that'll be good.
Is that anytime soon?
No.
Okay.
No.
I can see there are people at the agencies going, what? Hi. You successfully traverse American society, building a life as inspiring as it is unexpected. Like other successful immigrants to the U.S., did you ever worry that one day someone was going to challenge why you were in the room?
Well, I think that I've been here just about 50 years now, and I think they pretty much challenge you every day of your life. And I think that the best way you can deal with it as an immigrant is that you just show them what you can do, and like I said, just be who you are, and try to do as much as you can, and ignore all the noises around you. And that has been pretty much my mantra of how I conduct my life. Oh, by the way, after 50 years of working, I'm retiring at the end of the year. I just thought it's time. After 50 years of working, it's time to retire and enjoy your life.
Ed. Everyone knows Ed the musician, but not everyone knows Ed the leader. Looking back, every group you ever were part of ended up with you in a leadership role. Why is that?
It's the old story when they ask and everybody steps back, and you're the only one doing it. I'm not really sure why that is. I feel like I'm more of a complimentary person, than a pioneer of any sort. But at the same time, it's hard to sit back and watch people bungle things or don't know what they're doing. And sometimes, and literally, you just step up and you find yourself doing that. And you discover you have abilities you never thought you had. Like being in a band is just picking out the songs, the right songs, making the set list stuff, booking the band, collecting the money, paying everybody. It's good to be in control of that.
Josh, most young people, when looking at starting a business or making any major life decision, don't readily turn to their parents for advice. I certainly didn't. Why were you willing to at least consider the advice your parents gave you?
Well, pretty easy answer. My mother was in the business that I was going to go into, so she had a plethora of knowledge that I knew nothing about. And my dad was... his job was giving people money to open businesses. So not that he gave me money, but he had a lot of knowledge in that too. So it was just a kind of a no-brainer to look to those people.
Brian and Megan, you shared in your episode that the two of you had many discussions about starting a small business. Were there other businesses under consideration? other than a bike shop?
There is I'm from Rochester, New York, and there's a food up there they call a garbage plate. Yes! It looks disgusting. It tastes amazing. And after a night out in Dewey, one night I thought it would be amazing to open up a garbage plate restaurant with no restaurant experience. It would have been awesome. It would have been very profitable. We would have been retired by now.
Maybe we can get half full to stay open. Yeah, half full or Kindle to stay open and offer that after hours.
Yeah.
I want to ask one quick. So, what would be the name of this restaurant? Would it actually be the Garbage Place?
No, it would have been like, I don't know, beach trash place. Something that sounds gross but tastes good. Yeah.
No.
Katie, in your episode, I failed to focus on your considerable graphic talents. In 1 month, your events ranged from a Philly disco-themed wedding to an island wedding in St. Croix to a wedding at the Rainbow Room in New York City's Rockefeller Center. Where did you get the ideas to serve that much variety?
Oh my gosh, that's a wonderful question. I don't know. I will give all the credit to my team. I mean, I have 2 graphic designers who are constantly looking for new inspiration for all these cool things. And we work with wonderful brides and couples who are ready to push the envelope. So we show up for them and we, go down new paths every time that they're willing to, so that theirs feel 100% unique to them. So I guess where I find a lot of my inspiration when I'm working is in my couples. I ask them a lot of questions about themselves so that invitation suite ends up being totally about them and about where they're getting married, because usually that is part of their story too.
Dr. Chris, since your podcast was released, a second direct primary care practice has opened in Lewes. Given the benefits of your kind of practice, and audience, if you don't know what benefits I'm talking about, shame on you. Listen to episode 16. Do you think we can expect more direct primary care practices here in Lewes?
Oh gosh, I sure hope so. I've been approached by several physicians trying to learn more about it. I know there are a couple that are getting ready to open in the Dover area, so hopefully we'll have more down in Sussex County. And I think, one thing that was highlighted after the tragic murder in New York City last week is that Americans are fed up with insurance companies, and direct primary care isn't the solution to all of that, but it certainly is for primary care. So I'm ready and willing to help any physicians who are looking to open their own DPC. So.
Richard. That would be you.
Go ahead.
It's like the hot seat.
Based upon your episode in your most recent book, My Three Wives and Other Lovers, which, if my mother was still alive, would have described it as a bit steamy, what's it like to live a life so free of self-doubt?
Very interesting. And good. I don't know what to tell you. I've, as you know from the previous podcast, I'm out there. I have a good time, and I'm not sitting home watching TV and eating microwave dinners. So I have a good time.
I think we can all say that you've probably had much more fun than most of us here in this room.
Isn't that what life's supposed to be?
It is. Krista, as someone who is so adept at observing what's not always visible to the human eye, is there something in the air or the water, or maybe it's something more at the atomic level, that continually attracts such interesting people to our little town?
Well, I think it's the energy. I mean, there's this palpable energy and connectedness of everyone that's in here. So even in this room, you can look around and there's smiles, from each person as they're appreciating each other's story and appreciating where each other has come from. And I just believe that we are all, it really is a community, and we really are connected in a way that it goes beyond just the people that you spend time with in restaurants. And it's actually this palpable thing that connects all of us. And there's, entanglement in quantum physics, and maybe we're just all entangled, that we will always be together. So the moment we meet each other, we change each other. And I feel like that is what happens in this town.
Thank you. Thank you all. I'm going to open this up to the group. What has been a surprise or a benefit of being on the podcast? Hopefully there was at least one moment that made you happy or was memorable, or at least left you glad you agreed to participate. Josh?
A surprise about being on the podcast? My favorite thing, almost I'd say like 3 out of 4 people that have come up to me and said, oh, I listen to your podcast. They said something about me mentioning Mr. King, and whether they knew him or just know Kings, and now know a little bit more about him. That was really cool. So I'm glad I did that.
Megan, Brian?
I was surprised by how many people actually reached out and said that they listened to the podcast and they thought our story was so great. I actually had a person stop into the shop and bring a book that I mean, it was a great book about being a good manager and running a business successfully. I thought it was very thoughtful, and it's something that I definitely we have been reading and looking at. So I thought that was really nice.
Now, Brian, had you seen this book before?
Yeah, it was given to me by someone who I complained too much about mismanaging my business. So he's like, how about you stop complaining and read this book? And so I, when we got it a second time, I was like, I guess I should read this book.
Tell me what it is.
Lee Ann?
For me, yes, a lot of people said they heard the podcast, which I was surprised about. But for me, it was being able to highlight the fact that my parents, really helped me get started and were the reason that I'm where I am today. And I was happy to let them listen to it.
Krista?
I think for me, the big thing is that people were actually interested in hearing about quantum physics and just the power that we harness within ourselves. And so, that's my passion, sharing that. So to hear that even one person or a dozen people thought that was really exciting and they started to think about their potential differently, that was huge for me, because I didn't know that anyone would make it past the first 5 minutes.
Brax?
So honestly, Kevin, I was blown away by the depth of your research that led to incredible questions that led to me learning about myself. I think it was more of a therapy session than a podcast, to be honest. So thank you for all your work. It's amazing, man.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Damn, we should have gone with that one first. Ed?
I was surprised by the diversity of the people that came up to me. I mentioned it or got in contact with me, because they literally they weren't just Lewistown people. They were all kind of people. And I thought that was pretty cool that they were that connected to that, which goes to my overall feeling that Lewes is a special place that resonates through time. And it always has. And so Krista mentioned that. I believe that.
Katie?
When I think about being on this podcast, I really love just being part of this wonderful community. I look around this bar and I know all of you so well, and I'm honored to be a part of it, even though I'm not technically a local. But being here for 10 years now, it's been special. And I think, hindsight's 20/20. You really helped me look back at the past 10 years since I've moved here and started my business. And as a mom to 2 young girls, every day feels like, I'm turning my wheels, but damn, I've done a lot in 10 years. So thank you for helping me remember that and look back and be proud of all that I've accomplished around these amazing people.
Other than forcing you to retire, huh?
Well, Kevin, remember we talked about the fight between pickleball player and tennis player. Well, if any of you live in Lewes, there's that huge thing going on. But anyway, after you post the podcast, both pickleball player and tennis player came up to me and said, wow, I heard your podcast. I didn't realize, the life you have led. And it's occurred to me was that that it really doesn't matter what side of the fence we're on or which, who we support and anything. People do come together, and hopefully our country will come together at some point.
Mr. Martin?
Here we go again. Well, I was surprised when you showed up at my front door and asked me if I'd be interested in doing a podcast, because I didn't even know what a podcast was. I'd never been exposed to it, heard about it. And so I told you, let me think about it and I'll get back to you. So it took a couple of weeks. I thought about it. And Kevin was, I guess the primary interest was my free dive spearfishing book, and which I've been doing for 62 years. So that obviously I had some expertise in doing that. And I had written the book, and you had gotten the book somewhere. And but I didn't think I was doing anything extraordinary until you brought this up in the podcast and asked the questions that you asked. Because I had no idea that, as I said, that I was doing anything extraordinary, but you brought it out. And then in retrospect, thinking back on everything, I said, damn, I've been doing this for 62 years, and I haven't died doing it. And, the sharks haven't gotten me, and I haven't fallen and hurt myself too bad. And and then a lot of people contacted me about it after the fact, and it was very interesting, the follow-up of people acknowledging it.
And during that time, you set 2 world records.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, I had to take the life of a fish to get it, but I did eat the fish. and we had some beef over there earlier, and that somebody killed that critter. So I don't feel too bad about it. But one was a 112-pound black drum and you get this while you're diving, holding your breath. You're not using scuba tanks or anything. So it is a little interesting how you go about it. And you're holding your breath and you're diving down 15, 20 feet to look for a fish in the dark water. I can see from me to you, Kevin, and that's about the farthest distance. And, fish comes out of the darker water and you see it and you say, should I or shouldn't I? And yep, so you take the fish. And then you have to fight the fish to get it to the surface. Then you have to swim it to the boat. Then you have to pull it into the boat several times. So.
And how old were you when you set that record?
Well, I'm 87 now, so I think I was 76.
This was also my first introduction to podcasts, both being a guest on and listening to. So I was pleasantly surprised by the number of my patients that heard the podcast and actually learned about some of the services I offer in my practice, which, I guess we have some work to do on letting them know all we offer. But it's been a fun experience. And even last week within the past week, I've had somebody that said they just listened to the podcast. So it lives on.
No, thank you. And that's one of the things that I didn't appreciate before we started this about podcasts is they just live up there. Mm-hmm. And so people are still listening to all of your sessions, regardless of how long it's been.
You didn't announce Dr. Chris. So
Dr. Chris, what's your favorite holiday or special event in Lewes?
The Lewes Parade.
Don't everybody answer the same way.
I don't have a
Richard.
Yes. My favorite holiday is probably my birthday. I made another one.
We'll take that.
Well, I guess I can say that maybe the 4th of July. If anybody had a chance to read about Voice of America coverage of the 4th of July, every year I snuck in a little sentence about the Lewes Boat Parade.
Good for you.
Katie.
I think my answer is hospitality night, or as Michael and my husband, call it, babysitter night. It's the night to get a babysitter.
Ed?
How can I not say the Doodah Parade?
Yes.
Although Thanksgiving traditionally is my favorite holiday.
Rax?
Wow. So 4th of July, for obvious reasons, independence, freedom, the American spirit. But the older I get, the more I love the nostalgia of Christmas. Just sugar plum fairies and Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer just takes me back to a simpler time. And I highly recommend you go see Jeff West's window. It's just the most beautiful, nostalgic Christmas window.
Thank you. Krista?
My favorite holiday is Christmas Eve because I love like the anticipation. But when we talk about Lewes tradition, Ed, I'm with you. The Doodah Parade. It's the best.
Lee Ann, given that you support all of these, do you have to do you have to be very careful about what you say?
No, I tell everybody that's coming here there's 2 best days of the year in Lewes. One is 4th of July for the Doodah Parade, the boat parade, the fireworks, everything. And then the other one is the house tour and the Christmas parade. So they can't miss that. When they're wanting to buy a house here, I tell them those are the 2 days they have to be here.
Brian?
Probably the day summer's over and everybody gets the hell out of here. Kidding. Thank you to all of our customers who come.
So, what was the name of this business?
You haven't finished that book, have you?
Chapter 6, it's coming. Megan?
I love this time of year, Christmas. There's always so much going on in Lewes, and it's fun and it's magical. Actually, our town looks like a Hallmark movie when you drive down the street. So it's my favorite time of year.
Josh?
So I'm gonna echo Katie's thoughts and say hospitality night is my favorite. Kevin actually stopped by. It was nice, but just Christmas in general around here. I know a bunch of us have little kids, and it's pretty cool to be able to celebrate Christmas around here. So parade, hospitality night, all that good stuff.
I think Steve and I would agree that the best holiday is to be in the Christmas parade. It's a blast. And thanks to you too, Matt, even though you cut out early on us. Okay, this is the final question. Who do you want to see cast as you when they film Lewes the movie? We asked this last year, and Spell went with Ed Harris. If you've ever seen the two of them together, they were actually twins. We asked Shook, and Shook's response was Denzel Washington. It's been a year, and we still can't figure that out. So what we did is, through some amazing contacts, we actually sent a note to Denzel Washington, and we just got our answer. It was one word, no. Josh?
I'm going to stick with the spirit of the season and go with It's a Wonderful Life, Jimmy Stewart, maybe?
Good luck, Brian.
Any actor who ages gracefully.
George Clooney.
There you go. Sure. Yeah, sure.
I don't know. Maybe 2 people in my life have told me I look like Jennifer Garner. Maybe her. No, it wasn't me. I did not say that myself.
Okay, Patty Scalfa, Bruce
Oh.
Springsteen's wife. I've always wanted to be Bruce Springsteen's wife.
Krista?
Gwyneth Paltrow with her goop.
Brax?
Maybe Randy Quaid. Is he in jail or on the run?
You might be able to get him out for a movie.
Cousin Eddie, baby.
Ed?
Harvey Keitel.
Oh, nice.
A Girl Can Dream. Blake Lively.
Oh.
George Clooney, since my wife has the hots for him.
Okay.
Richard?
myself. I don't know, Kevin. I don't watch that many movies. Strahan. Strahan. See, I told you one. Pick somebody else. I don't know. You already got Clooney.
Tom Selleck.
That's good.
That's good.
Tom Selleck. Thank you.
This is a hard one. I used to be told I look like Terry Garr, but I think I would want Taylor Swift to be me.
Wow. Well, thank you, and it's good to see delusion is still as rife as ever.
Yeah.
It's the same answer as last year. Richard Dreyfuss. Now, some of you may groan, but my wife, Kath, who's here, can vouch for this. We went in, checked into a hotel in Indianapolis, and the clerk, who obviously needed glasses, was looking at me as I said my name and we were registering, and he kind of starts mouthing, "Are you?" And I was like shaking. Exactly. I was sort of like this. He goes, and then he does this. Oh, and does this exaggerated. Like that. No. And so on. And so he let drop that he thought I was Richard Dreyfuss. So we milked that for an entire weekend. It was great. Again, thank you all for joining us today. You are the heart and soul of this podcast. Thanks to today's audience here in the studio. The show does feel different when we can see and hear people listening, laughing, and groaning. I hope we can do this again. Let's hear it for the audience. And of course, thanks to you who are listening for sticking with us, for your comments and suggestions, and for being so supportive. Without you, our episodes would be, well, just two people sitting at a bar. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It's a good thing. This is our last episode of 2024. Here's some good news. We'll be back next year with the third season of We and Lewes. In fact, we're recording our January episodes next week. And here's some shocking news we just received. Based upon the rate of our downloads, in other words, the people who made the effort to listen to a show, which is a big deal in the podcast world, we are now ranked in the top 30% of all podcasts in the United States. Okay, don't get too carried away.
Kevin couldn't have done it without us.
That's right. And you're entitled to your share of the profit. You owe me $10. Don't get too carried away. Remember, for middle school math, that's a huge denominator in that calculation. But as Steve dryly observed, it's better than being in the bottom third. Again, thanks to all of you. All of us here at the podcast want to wish you the most wonderful holiday and an absolutely spectacular new year. Till January, this has been
We and Lewes, the podcast.